Metroidvanias. They're a dime a dozen. If you want to play a good Metroidvania, you've got about 30 to pick from coming out every year. Heck, there's another one literally everyone is talking about right now. But we're not here to talk about Metroid Dread because Unsighted is out, and while this game certainly isn't for everyone, it is absolutely excellent, and if you sleep on it, you are committing a crime, because this is the freshest Metroidvania I have played in years. Between its gorgeous pixel art, darker narrative, interesting suite of customization options to make your perfect build, and a whole heaping pile of unique gameplay conceits meant to liven up a very crowded and somewhat formulaic genre, Unsighted gave me massive iconoclast vibes from the very moment I first saw it, and now that the game's in my hands, it hasn't disappointed. All these ideas not only make Unsighted feel truly unique as a gaming experience, but also like a genuine leap forward in Metroidvania design. As always, I'm Alex, and this is First 5, where I ask if games are worth your time, not your money. I played a game for 5 hours, and I'm gonna tell you if those were 5 hours well spent. And today we're racing to save robot kind in Unsighted. I'm not usually too concerned with how a game looks, but right off the bat, Unsighted is a genuinely impressive sight. Its cutscenes are understandably fairly static, but when the game decides to bust them out, it produces some of the best looking sprite work I have ever seen. Holy heck is this game absurdly gorgeous. It moves as great as it looks, too. Unsighted's combat feels great to play with. Even fast weapons have a weight to them that forces you to commit to your attacks, and recovery is just long enough that you pretty consistently get punished for whiffing. So you get that nice, juicy combat bedrock where things are still fast-paced, but every attack needs to be made purposefully and strategically. And then on top of that sturdy bedrock, Unsighted starts layering on a half dozen other systems you have to pay attention to. You've got a cool parry move that stuns enemies, and smacking stunned enemies lets you do massive damage. You get a gun, and reloading it requires you to do a Gears of War style active reload. And then you've got a dozen different weapons you can equip to change up your playstyle, pets that can help you in combat, and a sweet spin move to top it all off. But what I found coolest about this combat system was how heavily momentum affects your attacks. If you're lucky, another game might give you a special lunge move if you attack while sprinting, but Unsighted gets way more granular than that. No matter what you do, the exact same attack will come out, but swinging while dodge rolling will cover more distance than swinging while sprinting, which will cover more distance than swinging while standing still. Or you can even sprint into a dodge roll, into an attack, and you really go flying. It takes a little bit of getting used to, but it's a brilliant little addition that goes a long way towards improving game feel and making combat more interesting. And that last sentence could be used to describe most of Unsighted's little combat quirks. This is a very active game, and there is a lot going on at any one time. Trying to do your active reload while running away from an enemy while also parrying an attack is some real pat your head while rubbing your belly kind of energy. It does not come easy, it does require far more physical dexterity than your average game demands, and you will spend a few hours fumbling it. Unsighted is also an extremely deadly game, and that goes both ways. This isn't like Dark Souls where you can just chug an Estus flask every 30 seconds and maybe limp through a hard fight. The difference between an effortless victory and a trip back to the respawn terminal is often just 1 or 2 missed parries, and once I straight up murdered a boss in a minute flat. All of this is to say that this is a fairly unforgiving game that in fact will not yield and let you progress until you figure out how to play it. You learn the dance, or you die. And for some people, that may be a particular problem, because it's also a game on a time limit. Unsighted's other big genius twist is a pillar that almost everything in the game is wrapped around, and that is the narrative concept of anima. Everyone in Unsighted's universe is a sentient automaton that runs on this energy called anima, and if they ever run out of it, they turn into a robo-zombie and become one of the hundreds of unwashed masses the player smashes their way through on their adventure. And currently, anima is in very short supply, so literally everybody is staring down the barrel of an imminent, ignoble end, a fate worse than death. But the end has yet to come, and of course your quest is to prevent it before it happens. But unlike most games, Unsighted isn't content to just sit there and only advance the game world's state when you act upon it. Instead, you have dozens of ticking clocks. Every character's days are literally numbered, from the most inconsequential side NPC to your best friends and primary shopkeepers to even yourself. And when that number hits 0, they become a robo-zombie, and the only thing you can do is old yeller them. So those are the narrative stakes, and they're pretty compelling on their own, but it also means that if you perform poorly and get stuck for a while, either wandering in circles unsure how to progress or just smashing your head against a boss repeatedly, there's narrative consequences for that. But where this setup starts to get really interesting is with the mechanical implications. Because there is an out. Sort of. See, strewn across the overworld, often in random side rooms or behind bonus puzzles, is this resource called meteor dust. Give it to another character and their time increases by 24 hours. And this little wrinkle is brilliant in two ways. One, it gives you a very strong motivation to actually go out and explore the Metroidvania world. A classic conceit of the genre is to have numerous side rooms with bonus loot, many of which you have to purposely backtrack to after gaining new abilities elsewhere in the world. But there is a critical question that every Metroidvania must find a compelling answer to: why the player should bother backtracking and exploring all those side rooms in the first place. And this is a bit of a tightrope walk for a game to perform. The answer has to be compelling enough that it's worth spending the time backtracking, but it can't be so vital as to become mandatory, because this is all technically optional content. And meteor dust is one of the best answers to this question that I have ever seen in a Metroidvania. From a pure mechanical perspective, keeping people alive in Unsighted is fairly optional. If your general store shopkeeper dies, that might make your life more difficult, but it's not going to end your run. But because of the stakes, it still feels really important. You don't want these poor helpless people to die, and the only way you're going to prevent it is by efficiently combing the map for these resources. But that's just the starting point. Once you actually get a few piles of meteor dust, you start getting asked really compelling questions on what you want to do with it. Because you can use it to make the game easier or harder at the opportunity cost of the narrative. Sure, you can use it to keep this sweet old granny alive, or you can get a sweet gun. Or spend it to get more health files so you can heal more, or any of a dozen different gameplay perks. It's an immensely compelling push and pull between spending your resources for narrative reasons and mechanical ones. The easier you make the actual gameplay, the harder it is to get the perfect ending where everyone lives happily ever after. And the more altruistically you work to keep everyone alive, the less margin for error you have out in the wilds, and the more unforgiving the game becomes. It's not the only way Unsighted enforces this dynamic either. Early on, I found this cute little doggo that is actually massively helpful in combat and goes a long way towards making the game easier. But they're also a drain on both resources and time, requiring me to regularly feed them and let them sleep, which naturally gives me less time to actually beat the game before characters start dying off. And similarly, you very quickly start to realize that you don't have to waste time smashing your way through every fight. Running past enemies to save time is a perfectly reasonable tactic, but it also means you won't have as many resources to invest into your character. And this is what I mean when I say that everything in the game is wrapped around this one gameplay conceit. Depending on how invested you are in the game's narrative, that timer informs literally everything about how you view the game world, and around every corner, there are compelling decisions to make about which of these two axes to drift towards: altruism and the plot, or self-advancement and the mechanics. It is a fantastic dynamic. But with all of that established, how does it actually play out? What do you get out of 5 hours with Unsighted? That's been enough to get me roughly halfway through the game. The main mission is a classic Metroidvania Go Nab 5 MacGuffins quest, and I'm well on my way to my third and picking up steam. So barring any major third act twists, Unsighted has a very reasonable runtime. It's also been an almost universally entertaining experience, but the best still feels yet to come. At the 5 hour mark, most NPCs' expiration dates are only just starting to loom over me. Now that means that in the next hour or two, my decisions are going to start getting a lot harder. There are a few caveats, however. One, I imagine this is a game I, and most people, will have to play at least twice if they want to see whatever best ending Unsighted has, possibly more times. Depending on how invested you get in accomplishing that goal, the game's runtime might spike a little bit. And two, because of the game's complexity and time limit, this might be a harder sell for some people. Everything I've described in this video is absolutely fantastic. This game is phenomenal, one of the best I've played all year. But every one of these design decisions also contribute to creating a game that, while short and reasonably paced, is not the kindest to newcomers. This game is hard, and not in a, oh, good luck beating this wicked crazy boss, he's gonna whoop your ass so many times kind of way, but in a very technical kind of way that requires an intimate understanding of Metroidvanias if you don't want to wander around aimlessly while feeling the sand slowly trickling its way through the hourglass to a bittersweet or worse ending, and a decently high level of dexterity to even progress at all in the first place. Once Unsighted clicks, it's an absolutely incredible game that feels great to play, but you are going to have to work up to it, and it's going to be a very different experience for me, someone who's played literally thousands of games and does this for a living, and somebody else who might not have as much experience or plays games very casually. I'm having an immense amount of fun, but your mileage may vary. But if that disclaimer doesn't dissuade you, this game is an absolute gem. It's bursting at the seams with cool ideas that make it the freshest Metroidvania I've played in years, and I cannot sing its praises enough. Hey, by the way, I've got a Patreon. If you enjoyed the video enough to get all the way here, you should go throw money at it. But thank you for watching all the way through. I hope you enjoyed this review of Unsighted, and I'll see you all next time.